go live. Click, click. Hello, everybody. This is Ryan Lanier. My business is Organizing for Good, and I am in Austin, Texas. And I'm bringing you this month's nonprofit shout out interview. And I'm so excited that all month long we have been dedicating to. I won't even try to explain, because we have Marian Trampolino here, founder and executive director for I have gone blank on the name of your nonprofit.
Magdalene House.
Thank you.
Magdalene House of Austin. We all have the memory blips from COVID still. I do.
That was special right there. So anyway, Magdalene House of Austin. So welcome to the nonprofit. Welcome back to the nonprofit shout out.
Thank you. And thanks so much for having us. I'd love to share just to start again, just to say again, I'm Marian Trampolino. I'm co-founder and executive director of Magdalene House Austin. And I'll dive right into what we do. We are a survivor-led long-term community for women who have survived sex trafficking, adult women here in Austin. And we were chartered 6 years ago this month. So this is our anniversary month, which is really exciting. Yay. 6 years ago today, my friend and I decided we'd both, to let y'all know how we got started, we both been to, sort of separate events and heard about trafficking and heard about this amazing woman called Becca Stevens, who was doing this work in Nashville and had this great model that she wanted to share. And we thought, did a little digging and discovered Texas was, bounces back and forth between number 1 and number 2 in terms of trafficking survivors. Does it really matter if you're 1 or 2? If you're in the top anything in this is not good. And then soon discovered that surely we thought in the Austin area, someone was already tackling this. And when we discovered that there wasn't any kind of place for women to come and heal, we put our heads together and said, sure, let's give it a shot. And so Magdalene House was born 6 years ago in April. And then we took a good long time to sort of study the model that was going to work, to make sure we were going to be the healing place we wanted to be, to buy a house and renovate it, which is no small feat. Any of you listening here in Austin know that that's no small feat in Austin at all at this moment, or even 5 years ago.
Right.
And we very happily got to the point just at the end of 2019 where we were ready to open our doors. And then we got the pandemic. And I always I'm a big Monty Python fan, so I always love to say, no one ever expects the Spanish Inquisition. That's kind of how it felt. It was like, okay, we didn't expect this, but we're gonna have to roll with it, because we worked so hard to get this house ready, and there are so many women out there. There's such a great need. And so we opened in April of 2020, before anybody really knew what to do with the pandemic. And so we very carefully took all the research we had done and figured out how we could serve women coming in with this very intense trauma that had such deep needs from the community. And we kind of just figured out how to do it day by day. So we have been doing that now. It's our second anniversary of welcoming women in. And so we are very delightfully about to celebrate our first graduation ceremony, because our program is 2 years long. And we're just, it seems like a blur, like kind of the best blur possible over the last 2 years. We have been providing, so what our model does and what we've been doing, pandemic, with a pandemic twist, is providing really intensive, what in the social services world you call wraparound services. It's individual therapy every week. It's group therapy. It's getting them to the right job training, finding a mentor, just amazing volunteer corps that has done everything from having a knitting class to taking them to their house to swim, just to have a little respite. And individualizing it too. There's no way I can list everything we've done, but as the women come to us and say, this is the kind of need, this is what I need to get from, this horrible world I was living in of trafficking to getting my life back on track. What I want to do is just whatever they kind of need. We can either try to provide it directly, or we provide it with community partners. So that is the backstory of Magdalene. And I feel like I, could talk forever. I'm half Sicilian, so the rambling just kind of happens sometimes. So I'm going to hand it back over to you, Ryan, to maybe ask a more directed question that you might have.
Well, one of my favorite things about doing these interviews, it just really allows you and people have our executive directors to just gush. I mean, you need to gush about what's going on. You're working so hard, and we love to hear it. So, gushing is wonderful. So I basically started these interviews just when the pandemic began because I was super curious and nervous for, how nonprofits were going to get through this. So luckily, we're saying that we are getting to the end of the pandemic, but there are still like so many effects. So maybe you just give us a little, long and short of, when it all happened, what you changed, and then what you've been able to bring back or keep it that actually turns out to be a better way to serve.
Yeah. And I love that question because we had some silver lining moments that we didn't expect, which
Mhm.
is, the women who come to Magdalene House are, I mentioned just balancing so many services and so many sort of community needs to overcome such severe and deep trauma that, they're many times juggling different priorities. So it's the therapy session here, and it's it's the group therapy and it's job training, and it's maybe going to a yoga. We have someone that does yoga that comes to the house, and going to a job interview. And so what the biggest silver lining for us is at first, so I'm a social worker, our community director is a licensed professional counselor. And as people who are trained in mental health, we thought the first big hiccup of COVID, or the first casualty almost, was going to be that the women didn't get in-person therapy because there's so much that you get from the nonverbal. And I think
Yeah.
this was the fear overall from the pandemic, not just from serving women at Magdalene House, is that we were going to lose that person-to-person connection. And I think that is still very true. But what we found with the services is it is so much more convenient for the women to be able to access their mental health services online. And it's not always ideal. And we do try as much as possible to provide that in person, because that really develops a relationship in a different way. But I think COVID really helped us all. There's good and bad to this, but I think the really good for Magdalene House is it really lets the women access the service whenever they can. For example, we have a woman now who has just made remarkable progress in her healing, and she's found this great job, and it's full time. So she's able to stay at Magdalene. She's working full time. She can save money so that, she can go out into the housing market in Austin and have her cushion to pay rent, because we all know that is just a huge hill to climb here these days. And so she's able to work in her therapy sessions between her work hours, so that she doesn't have to get in the car and drive. In Austin traffic, it can be 45 minutes and then 45 minutes back and then an hour session. So rather than 3 hours, she just sits down and does her therapy for 15 minutes.
Fantastic.
And it's great. We were so hesitant about that. And I think it's been great. And I think actually therapists have been remarkably creative, and technology is, you guys hopefully can all see me very clearly right now. I can see Ryan. Technology has evolved in a way that you really do get some of those nonverbal cues, across a Zoom call. And it's not ideal, but it's good. It's really good if someone who really needs therapy can squeeze it in between a job that they also critically need. So that's been the big win for us. And I think it's not just therapy, it's other folks who want to connect and help the women and can't necessarily come in person. We've learned how to use technology better, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
and as
think it
far as
really,
the rest of the COVID, we just kind of made it work. We wore masks. We knew, you balance your risks. I mean, we knew we had women in the house that needed to be taken care of. And, our community director and I assessed our risk and just kind of said, these are women we're going to take care of. And this is going to be part of what we risk. So,
that kind of brings me to, tell us a little bit about the structure. How many women are you having at a time? And maybe just a little bit about literally the house.
Sure. So we are all about, we come from the Thistle Farms model. So that's the same woman that I mentioned before who has been doing this in Nashville. And we really wholeheartedly believe in that model, which is love and community is what heals. There's therapy, there's all the things I've already talked about, but really connecting with another human being and letting them know that they're seen, and hugging them and really loving them is particularly what is healing when you've been through such severe trauma and you've probably been disconnected from the people who were giving you that in your life, if you even had it. So many women come from broken homes. I come from a broken home. I know what it's like not to have a father. Fortunately, I had a loving mother, but that's not always the case. So just being that stability, being really the family for them. And so we are, very intentionally a community, which means we're also smaller. So we were a fledgling nonprofit. 6 years is very young. And so scale is a big deal. You want to start small so that you don't just sort of collapse. You want to set a strong foundation. And unfortunately, that means even though the need is huge, that we can only accommodate a very small portion of it. So we have a beautiful 3-bedroom, 2-bath house up in North Austin in the city limits. It's got a beautiful 1/3 of an acre yard. It's got a creek that runs behind it, very relaxing. And so our maximum capacity is 6 women. We have been very fortunate. We just had a dedication event yesterday. So another local nonprofit, Homemade, who connects nonprofits who are in some way combating homelessness with builders in the Austin area, did a beautiful renovation for us that built a whole new outdoor living space, and then turned our shed that's adjacent to the house into a flex space that provides a formal office for us. When we were there, we were officing in the dining table, an office and kind of a yoga therapy space, so that we can do those kind of one-off therapy sessions when women need to be pulled aside and have some private space. And the reason I mention that is because first, it's amazing. I mean, it was just this amazing gift from, this connection that this nonprofit made for us. But also our house is about 1,400 square feet. So we'd been very slowly bringing women in, and we've served about 6 women, but several of them needed more sort of intense inpatient treatment than we could provide. So we solidly had 3 women in the house for over a year now. And we were hesitant to expand it to our full capacity, which is 6, because we felt like there was just one living space. It was pretty tight. And so with this new space, with the new flex space and the outdoor living space, now we can maximize our capacity, which is so amazing, because it really means we're doubling. Our capacity was there, but we're doubling the number of women we can serve.
Fantastic.
So that's really great, because our intention had always been to expand. And it's also connected us with the right people in the community to start the conversation about, well, our lot is big enough. We could actually double our capacity. We could build another structure and go from 6 to 12 if we had that construction in place. And so that's been a nice sort of looking to the future, now that I hope we're over the hump with COVID, and we can start really thinking about really helping this nonprofit to blossom, because we have to really, unfortunately, turn away probably at least 4 women a month, because the need is just so great. Did that totally answer your question? Because, gushing is my thing. Did I mention I'm half Sicilian?
I love it. You're bringing to light just many things that are going on. And I love to remember and remind that it's the connections between the nonprofits out there where you guys support each other in similar missions, or you create bridges where normally those would not exist. I learn about this a lot in these interviews, and I love to say we are better together, and it's just true over and over. And this is another great example. So that is a great lead into, you don't do this alone. So please share just all the ways that, the community can help you through monetary events, monetary donations, attending your events, volunteering. Let us know.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's no way it really, it takes a village. Sounds like it's so cliche. We say it a lot, but it's just so true. Particularly, and I don't even think I could have realized this. Our community director probably did more than I did, because she's a survivor leader. She really understands the depth of the trauma. it really has taken a village. I mean, we have board members who are mentors to the women at the house and have them to their house for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And it really has become, it's a family. It's really what it takes for this healing to happen, a community and a family. And so we really welcome folks, and some folks love this and some folks it scares. So whoever you are, don't let me scare you. And if you love it, get in touch with me. We really love our volunteers. We really like to call them part of our community. And I know for some people, everyone has different gifts, right? You know, some people's gift, and, you know, I understand this because this is me. You can sit with someone who's experienced that much trauma and just sit with them and experience it with them. For other people, that's incredibly overwhelming. So we like to say, we would love for everyone to be part of this community. It's a huge issue in our community. And whether your gift to Magdalene House and the women who have survived trafficking at Magdalene House is talent or treasure or both, we welcome you with open arms. If you are the kind of person that just feels this in your heart and you want to do something and you have the resources and, you know, you want to write us a check, obviously we would love to have that. It's you know, all joking aside, it's very expensive. It's very high touch social service, I would call it. It's a lot of money we spend on therapy, and we partner with a lot of community therapists. So we do get the therapy and other services at a very reduced cost, which is super helpful. And again, it's a great part of living in Austin. I feel like most people in Austin are very community oriented. So we do get a lot of reduced service, but it's still a very expensive, very high touch service to address this kind of trauma. We also love for people to donate their talent. One of the things we hear from the women at Magdalene is, for so long, they were treated like a commodity and just sort of to be raw, kind of a piece of meat, and not like just a normal, you know, quote, I hate using the word normal, but normal woman. They just want to be normal again. And I think that's where our model is really helpful. They live in a normal neighborhood. They don't live in something that feels very institutional. They know the neighbors. They help the elderly neighbor walk her dog. And they also love people coming in. We brought in a volunteer who helped with a knitting class. And to be honest, the women weren't jazzed about the knitting, but what they loved was the camaraderie they had with these women who just wanted to sit and chat with them, like, and hear about what they like, and not be asking for something from them, you know? So we really, time, talent, whatever you have to give, time, talent, treasure. That one of our board members said that. She's like, the 3 T's, we need the 3 T's, and whatever someone's gift is to give to us, we welcome it. And I love how she said that.
That's brilliant. I think every nonprofit should use that phrase, because that gets people thinking, oh, wait, I don't really feel like I have the extra money, but I have extra time. Or maybe I don't have time, but I have this thing I could do really easily, and I could, you know, help judge their website or whatever. I think that is brilliant.
Right. And I think a lot of people, I love to think about it as time, talent, and treasure. I think most people think about treasure as, I'm going to write a check, which again, we love.
Sure.
We have a budget, but I think so many people don't think of their talent as their treasure, because if someone can come in and provide a knitting class, or we have a volunteer that comes in and provides a yoga class, not only is that incredibly valuable for the women, but it is also, to be, you know, frank, it checks off a budget item for us. I mean, if you're going to donate your time for a trauma informed yoga class, that's something that we don't have to pay for. It's just as valuable as the check.
Absolutely. Arguably, yes. Yes.
And
yes. Ooh, I just got so many goosebumps. I always get goosebumps on these, and I'm right there with you. Supporting women is just so important and so gratifying. Just those 2 words just come to mind. So I just love hearing everything you say. Do you do any like big event? Like, you must have a director of, you know, development, or, you know, do you do events or any large fundraisers or anything like that we should know about?
So historically, before COVID, and we were very lucky with the timing of this, we had done a fundraiser every February. So we got in a big fundraiser February 2020, which was just as fortuitous as it gets.
Yes.
And then, of course, we all know what happened after that. So we did, we didn't do the next February, and we pushed it we pushed it to May, then May didn't look great. We pushed it to October, and that was right when Omicron hit. So the last fundraiser we did was switched very quickly to online. We are planning to go back to the February. So in February of 2023, I can send you all the information. We'll be doing
Wonderful.
our large fundraiser. But we're going to try to do a couple of, we are going to do on April 27th, a little anniversary luncheon at the house.
Nice.
So if anyone sends in questions for you, I don't want to blast out the address on social media,
course,
but I'd be happy to connect with someone through email and let them know about the event. And if they want to come, I can send them the address. And then we're going to try to do a smaller sort of a luncheon too, just to get people connected with the house, because for so long people couldn't come to the house. And we're not like domestic violence shelters where it needs to be a secret location. If someone's in imminent danger, we can't take them because we don't have the facilities for that. So giving people our addresses for events is not as big a deal as it would be for sort of a shelter environment.
Okay. Well, that leads me to remind everyone that has watched this interview or is watching now, go and follow the social media for Magdalene House of Austin, and subscribe to your newsletter. I'm sure that would also be a great way to connect, and share this interview onto your own social media, because that is like the ripple effect of saying that and support there's beautiful work going on, and you want other people to know about it. So that's another thing where I feel like these interviews can give some legs to the smaller nonprofits, which just are so near and dear to my heart. Before we finish up, is there maybe a touching story you can share? Name, obviously no names, but just something that gives us just the goosebumps all over again.
Well, this is going to give you the goosebumps in the wrong way. I'm just going to warn you right away. So
it's okay.
Steel yourself.
All right. Oh, I'm ready.
So this is a very recent story. This is a woman who's been with us for a long time. So hopefully she will graduate later this year. She was a survivor of trafficking. I won't get into the details, several different stories. She has a young daughter who I believe now is 8. And as it happens very frequently, so she had her daughter before she was trafficked. She was trafficked. She was trafficked through someone who was sort of pretending to be a boyfriend. This is a very typical story. And he then sort of coerced her. It's tragic that men prey on women who have children, because then they can say, if you don't do what I say, we're going to hurt your daughter. We're going to hurt your mother. So anyway, without giving you her story, because it's not my place to tell her story.
Sure.
She lost custody of her daughter. And fast forward, it was very, I don't want to give you the details, but it was very hard, as any of us who are parents or even not parents can imagine. This is all sort of happening while she was with us. And recently she had an issue where she couldn't really deal with it. I don't want to get into the details, but the way that the Magdalene community came to her. I mean, we had a board member who was sitting at the hospital with her. We had our community director was there with her. And it really made me realize I was trained in social work, and my social work professors might not enjoy me saying this. There was a lot of talk in the school of social work about, you kind of have to be detached and you can't be emotionally involved. And I understand where they're coming from, but I think in this kind of work, the thing is, it's not going to work unless we really do open ourselves up and provide the love that the women need and the healing community, and really make it become a family. And maybe we are crossing boundaries, professional boundaries. I don't think we are, but they just need to know that someone cares. And, when you're really at the lowest part of your life and experiencing something really low, and what we do is make sure that we say they're a sister for life when they come to us. So if this had happened, even with this woman graduated from Magdalene, I think we would have all been there for her, because she doesn't have anybody anymore. I mean, her daughter was taken away and her family isn't around. And so what happens frequently for women that this happens to is, they end up going back to trafficking, because they've been told for so long that they're nothing, and they start to believe it, and they're so ashamed. And if there's not someone there to tell them, no, you have value, you are worth something, we love you, that there's just no way to turn it around.
Mhm.
And so I know that I can't unfortunately give you details of like the
No.
women's stories because it is a very personal thing. And
But I see what you're saying. What you're saying is that when someone goes through something like this, that what Magdalene House is providing is a safety net that is not going to happen if it weren't for you guys. I think that's what you're saying.
I think it's particularly true because I think the other point is, and I didn't even realize, I realized it before we started, but not to the level that I realize it now. So I was very intentional about hiring. I was lucky, actually, intentional and lucky that I was able to hire a community director who's also a survivor. I mean, she understands at the cellular level what these women are going through in a way that I just don't, and I won't, thank God.
Right.
And I think that's really important. I think there's a lot of talk these days about trafficking, and a lot of people want to help and they have the best intentions. But I just think unless it's survivor led, you're just not going to, the women just don't, they trust someone who understands what they're going through. And having that person as part of our community, and then having the backup community, which is me and every volunteer who went to that hospital and made the phone calls, and is just, yeah, the safety net it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. It is a big deal.
It's intense. It's a very tightly laced safety net with a lot of different people in the weave there. So, which is why I say it's, it's high touch. And so in terms of social services, I'll be honest, our cost per client is probably higher than a lot of social services. And it's because the trauma is really beyond, it's probably up there with, you're trafficked and you experience war. I mean, those two experiences are probably in my experience, the two most traumatic human experiences that you have.
Which is just all the more important of what you're doing. I mean, you are literally saving the life. It's not even necessarily a medical thing, but you're saving their soul. It almost sounds like you're giving them some soul back.
I think it's really, I appreciate you saying that. And I really want to emphasize though, these women are saving themselves. I've never seen braver, more courageous women than these women. And what we do is just open the doors for them, right? Show them the different paths that they can take, and they absolutely save themselves in the most remarkable way.
I think that is, if anyone watched this interview and they remember nothing else, is that right there. That's phenomenal.
It's true. I'd love to say I had a bigger part. I cracked the door open and they plow through it.
Says so much about the resilience of humans, especially in community. So, wow.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like we could go on for hours, but I think we want to just call this just an amazing interview. And I think it's so important. People need to hear, how important your work is, and that it would be very easy to support such an incredible gift of this community here in Magdalene House of Austin. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. And we would love to have anyone. If you want to join our community, we are wide open, and please join us.
Fantastic. So we will put on the Organizing for Good Facebook page, we have been shouting out all the ways to support Magdalene House all month long. You probably have learned lots and lots of facts. So now you've heard from the inside of how amazing this is. So give of time, talent, and treasure, so we can help them keep on helping more women. So guys, I just thank you so much for watching the Nonprofit Shoutout or listening to the Nonprofit Shoutout interview. I think it's just important for us to know what's going on in this crazy world. And I look forward to bringing you the next interview next month. So thanks for watching, everybody. Have a fantastic day.